Let us begin our quiet journey. Imagine yourself drifting slowly along the Nile River. The sun is low in the sky, casting a soft golden light over the calm water. Palms sway gently in a warm breeze, and the air is filled with the faint scent of wet earth. This is the land we will explore tonight, the timeless world of ancient Egypt. Egypt is a place of vast deserts and fertile valleys, of unbroken horizons and intricate human history. For more than 3,000 years, civilizations rose and fell here, leaving behind stories carved in stone, painted on temple walls and whispered through the ages. And yet, tonight we will not rush through battles or focus on the noise of history. Instead, we will move slowly, allowing the centuries to pass at a gentle pace, letting each detail unfold like the slow opening of a lotus flower. Before the pharaohs, before the pyramids, there was the river. The Nile, stretching over 4,000 miles, is the lifeblood of Egypt. Every year, its predictable flooding left behind dark, rich soil, creating a ribbon of green in the middle of the desert. Without the Nile, there would be no Egypt. No grand temples, no hieroglyphs, no tales of gods and kings. It is here, along the banks of this river, that humans learn to settle, to grow food, to form communities. Imagine small clusters of reed houses near the water, smoke rising from cooking fires, and children chasing each other in the sand. People gather under the shade of sycamore trees, sharing stories that mix daily life with the presence of unseen gods. The rhythm of the river becomes the rhythm of life. The planting, the growing, the harvest, the flood. Time itself seems to flow in harmony with the waters. As we drift further, the desert stretches endlessly on either side. The sand, pale and soft under the moonlight, seems empty, yet it hides tombs, temples, and secrets older than memory. The silence of the desert is complete, broken only by the faint rustle of wind. It is a silence that invites reflection, that draws you deeper into the feeling of being far away from the noise of the modern world. The people of ancient Egypt believed their land was a gift from the gods. In the east, the sun rose each day bringing light, warmth, and life, symbolizing birth. In the west, the sun set, disappearing into the land of the dead. The Nile itself was thought to flow from the realm of the gods, bringing their blessings to the people. This balance, of life and death, of river and desert, of light and shadow, shaped everything the Egyptians built and believed. The temples were aligned with the stars, the tombs with the journey of the sun. Even their language, with its graceful hieroglyphs, was an art of balance and beauty. As night deepens in our story, you might picture the flicker of oil lamps in small villages. Shadows dance gently on mud brick walls. The sound of a slow, steady drum carries from a distant celebration. Somewhere, a priest tends a small shrine, offering bread and cool water to an image of a god, speaking words that have been repeated for generations. Egypt was, and is, a land of continuity. While the rulers and dynasties changed, the river kept flowing, the fields kept growing, and the people kept honoring the same gods. From the smallest fishing boat to the grandest royal barge, all depended on the steady, predictable heartbeat of the Nile. For now, let us remain in this gentle beginning. No need to hurry toward the great monuments or famous kings. Tonight we start by breathing in the landscape itself. The river, the desert, the sky. The soft rustle of papyrus reeds, the glimmer of starlight on the water, the faint cry of a night bird drifting over the fields. As you listen, allow your thoughts to slow. Let each sentence be a step deeper into the calmness of this ancient place. The past is not something rushing away from us. Here, it moves in long, graceful cycles, just like the flood of the Nile. We are only at the threshold of our journey, with the whole story of Egypt waiting ahead. And so, in the next chapter we will follow the Nile more closely, learning about its lands, its seasons, and the life it gave to a civilization unlike any other. But for now, breathe deeply, feel the quiet embrace of the desert night, and let the first images of ancient Egypt settle gently in your mind. Capitolo 2, The Land and the Nile. As we continue our gentle journey through ancient Egypt, let us linger a little longer on the land itself, and the river that shaped every moment of life here. Close your eyes if you wish and imagine the Nile stretching before you, wide, calm, and slow-moving. Its waters reflect the pale blue of the sky, interrupted only by the occasional ripple of a passing bird or the soft splash of a fish. Egypt is a land of contrast. On one hand, there is the vast, golden desert, rolling endlessly toward the horizon. Its sand glows warmly under the sun and cools to soft silver under the moon. On the other hand, the Nile Valley presents a ribbon of lush green, where life thrives in harmony with the waters. The river is not merely a feature of the landscape, it is the pulse of the nation, the constant presence around which everything revolves. During the yearly inundation, the Nile swells, spilling over its banks and covering the fields with dark, fertile silt. Farmers, patiently watching the river, know that this flood brings both challenge and reward. They plant their seeds as the waters recede, trusting in the rhythm that has sustained their ancestors for generations. Slowly, life blooms again along the riverbanks. Grain shoots, papyrus reeds, fig trees and flax plants sway in the gentle breeze. Beyond the river's edge, the desert seems silent and unyielding. But even here life finds a way. Nomadic tribes navigate the dunes, guided by the stars and the knowledge of the land passed down through countless generations. Oasis palms provide relief and sustenance, and small pools of water reflect the sky like mirrors, offering a brief, hidden sanctuary in the vast emptiness. The Nile itself carries more than water. It carries stories, memories, and the sense of continuity that defines Egypt. Fishermen glide in reed boats, casting nets with patience and care, while children laugh along the shore, running after each other through the mud and sand. Traders paddle slowly downstream, bringing grain, pottery, and woven mats from one village to the next. Everything is intertwined, people, river, and land, in a slow, unbroken dance. Let your mind wander along the river's curves. Imagine the mornings when the mist rises gently from the water, hiding the banks in soft gray shadows, and the evenings when the setting sun paints the sky in oranges, purples, and pinks. In these quiet moments, life feels suspended, as if time itself has paused to breathe. And indeed, this sense of harmony and rhythm would guide the Egyptians for thousands of years, influencing everything from their agriculture to their art, religion, and culture. The land and the river, together, created a unique environment, a desert fortress cradling a fertile heart, where civilization could flourish. And as we drift further along the Nile, we will see how this special land nurtured one of the most remarkable societies the world has ever known. Capitolo 3, Early Settlements and Pre-Dynastic Period. Now, let us move gently from the river itself to the first human communities that appeared along its banks. Long before the great pyramids or mighty pharaohs, small settlements took root here, adapting slowly to the rhythm of the Nile. These early people were farmers, fishermen, and artisans, learning to live in harmony with the land. They constructed homes from reeds and mud bricks, simple yet functional, blending naturally into the landscape. You might imagine smoke rising softly from a cooking fire, children chasing one another along the riverbank, and the occasional animal wandering nearby, goats, cattle, or wild birds. Life in these settlements was guided by the cycles of nature. Planting, tending, and harvesting formed the rhythm of daily existence. Every year, as the Nile flooded and retreated, the people observed patterns, developed calendars, and slowly began to understand the passage of time. It was here, in these quiet, patient communities, that the foundations of Egyptian civilization were laid. The pre-dynastic period was also a time of experimentation and artistry. Pottery, decorated with simple geometric patterns or depictions of animals, tells us about the people's imagination and daily life. They carved small figurines, created jewelry, and wove intricate mats and textiles. Even in these early times, the Egyptians were cultivating a sense of beauty, balance, and permanence that would later define their monumental architecture and sacred art. As settlements grew, social structures began to emerge. Leaders arose, guiding their communities, resolving disputes, and organizing labor. Trade networks expanded slowly along the river and into the desert, connecting people to distant regions. Copper, ivory, and semi-precious stones traveled along these paths, bringing new ideas, objects, and influences into the growing culture. Religion, too, began to take shape. People saw the world as infused with spiritual forces. The sun, the river, the sky, and the land all held sacred significance. They offered small gifts, prayers, and symbols to unseen powers, seeking protection, fertility, and abundance. This spiritual awareness, gentle and pervasive, would later grow into the complex pantheon of gods and goddesses that guided every aspect of Egyptian life. Imagine walking quietly through one of these early villages. The sounds are soft, the gentle lap of water against the shore, the faint clatter of tools, the rustle of reeds in the wind. There is a feeling of calm, a steady heartbeat that mirrors the flow of the Nile. And in this quiet rhythm, human ingenuity, culture, and community began to blossom. By the end of the pre-dynastic period, these small communities had begun to unify under regional leadership, laying the groundwork for the dynasties that would follow. It is a reminder that civilization grows slowly, step by step, guided by patience, observation, and a deep connection to the land. And now, with this calm understanding, we are ready to witness the emergence of the first unified kingdom along the Nile. Capitolo 4, the unification under Narmer. Now, let us drift gently toward a moment of quiet transformation. The scattered villages and regions along the Nile slowly came together under a single ruler. This period is known as the unification of Egypt, traditionally credited to a king named Narmer, whose vision brought harmony and order to the land. Imagine the river flowing past two distinct regions: Upper Egypt with its narrow valley and cliffs, and Lower Egypt, stretching toward the Nile Delta, wide and fertile. For centuries, these areas developed independently, each with its own customs, symbols, and rulers. Yet, over time, the connections between them grew stronger. Trade, marriage, and diplomacy wove a network that ultimately allowed one leader to unite both lands. Narmer's unification was not just a political act. It was a symbolic gesture of harmony and balance. In art and culture, this balance is often depicted through the famous Narmer palette, showing the king wearing the crowns of both Upper and Lower Egypt. This unification marked the beginning of the early dynastic period, setting the stage for thousands of years of continuity, culture, and innovation. Under Narmer, the Nile Valley became a cohesive society. Administrative centers arose, where scribes recorded goods, taxes, and events. Religious rituals became more organized, with temples and shrines reflecting the king's role as a mediator between humans and gods. Even the flow of everyday life, farming, fishing, trading, became part of a larger, orderly system. The unification also inspired artistic and architectural innovation. Early monumental structures began to appear, as communities pooled resources and labor. Simple mud brick buildings were joined by ceremonial structures, and tombs grew larger, reflecting both social hierarchy and the spiritual importance of the afterlife. It was a quiet yet profound shift, one that would resonate for millennia. As you imagine this period, picture the calm river carrying reed boats filled with goods from distant villages. Hear the soft conversation of traders, the distant call of a bird, and the slow, steady rhythm of life unfolding under the guidance of a unifying king. Narmer's Egypt was not marked by frantic change, but by a measured, deliberate order, a world slowly aligning itself into harmony. And so, our journey has brought us from the gentle flow of the Nile, through early settlements, to the unification of Egypt under Narmer. The foundations of one of the world's greatest civilizations are now in place, and yet there is much more to explore. The Old Kingdom, the age of pyramids, and the flourishing of art, culture, and belief that would define Egypt for centuries. Capitolo 5, the Old Kingdom and the Age of Pyramids. As we drift forward along the calm currents of history, we now arrive at a period of monumental ambition and quiet grandeur, the Old Kingdom of Egypt, often called the Age of the Pyramids. Close your eyes and picture the sun rising slowly over the desert, casting long shadows across the golden sands, while the Nile glimmers softly nearby. The Old Kingdom, beginning around 2686 BCE, was an era marked by stability, order, and remarkable architectural achievement. Kings, or pharaohs, ruled with divine authority, seen as living gods on earth, guardians of harmony and intermediaries between the people and the gods. Their rule was not hurried or chaotic. It was measured, deliberate, and meticulous. Every action, every decree flowed in accordance with the principles of Ma'at, the ancient concept of truth, balance, and cosmic order. One of the most iconic legacies of this time is the construction of the pyramids. The Great Pyramids of Giza, including the towering monument of Khufu, arose not from sudden inspiration, but from careful planning, patience, and the combined effort of thousands. Imagine workers moving massive limestone blocks, their rhythm slow and steady, echoing the pulse of the Nile itself. The air is filled with the soft clatter of tools, the distant song of laborers, and the occasional gentle wind carrying the scent of the desert. These pyramids were more than tombs, they were symbols. They reflected the pharaoh's power, the society's devotion to the gods, and the Egyptians' understanding of life and death. Within their chambers, intricate passages and ceremonial spaces were built to honor the journey of the soul to the afterlife. Art, hieroglyphs, and statues adorned these spaces, each telling a story, each crafted with care and reverence. Life for ordinary Egyptians during the Old Kingdom moved at a quiet pace, in harmony with the river and the seasons. Farmers tilled the land along the Nile, fishermen cast their nets, and artisans honed their crafts, creating pottery, jewelry, and tools with gentle precision. Trade extended along the Nile and into neighboring regions, bringing exotic stones, copper, and other resources that would enrich Egyptian culture. Religion permeated every aspect of daily life. Temples dedicated to Ra, the sun god, and other deities became centers of community and ritual. Priests performed ceremonies with slow, deliberate movements, and the people offered gifts, prayers and small tokens, trusting in the protective guidance of their gods. Spirituality was not rushed or frantic. It was woven into the rhythm of living, as natural and steady as the flow of the Nile. The Old Kingdom also saw the establishment of administrative systems that ensured order and stability. Scribes recorded events, collected taxes and documented resources, quietly maintaining the smooth functioning of society. Governors and officials coordinated the labor needed for monumental construction and the distribution of goods, allowing the civilization to flourish without turmoil. Picture a day in this time. The sun rises over a small village, farmers begin their work along the riverbanks, artisans prepare their tools, and distant pyramids cast their shadows on the land. Life moves slowly but purposefully, a balance of labor, worship, and reflection. And as night falls, the desert cools, the Nile reflects the stars, and the world settles into calm serenity, ready to rise again with the morning light. The Old Kingdom reminds us that human achievement does not require haste. Great monuments, sophisticated governance, and enduring culture are the result of patience, careful planning, and the quiet harmony between people and their environment. And as we leave this period behind, we will carry forward the sense of measured progress, ready to explore the changes and challenges of the Middle Kingdom, where Egypt's story will continue to unfold with new depth and complexity. Capitolo 6. The Middle Kingdom and Cultural Revival. As the echoes of the Old Kingdom fade into memory, Egypt enters a period of renewal and quiet reflection. The Middle Kingdom, beginning around 2055 BCE. This era is often described as a time of cultural revival, when the foundations of society were strengthened, art and literature flourished, and the sense of order was renewed after periods of instability. The Middle Kingdom was marked by wise and deliberate governance. Pharaohs worked not only as divine rulers but also as careful stewards of their people. Administration became more refined, with local officials overseeing villages and towns, ensuring that resources were fairly distributed and that society moved in balance with the rhythms of the Nile. Imagine the soft rustle of papyrus scrolls in quiet chambers, as scribes recorded events, laws and stories, preserving the legacy of Egypt for generations to come. Architecture during this period shifted subtly, yet with purpose. Massive pyramids continued to rise, but they were often smaller and more intricate than those of the Old Kingdom. Temples grew in importance, not merely as places of worship, but as centers of learning, art, and community life. Walk through these sacred spaces in your mind, and you will hear the gentle chants of priests, see the flickering light of oil lamps, and feel the calm reverence that permeated every corner. Art and literature blossomed during the Middle Kingdom. Stories of adventure, morality, and the afterlife were written with care, capturing the imagination of both the elite and the common people. Paintings and sculptures displayed a refined elegance, portraying humans, gods, and the natural world with careful observation and deliberate beauty. Every detail, from the curve of a figure's hand to the flow of a river, was crafted slowly, thoughtfully, and with deep respect for the harmony of life. Trade expanded quietly but steadily. Egypt's connections with Nubia, the Levant, and other distant lands brought exotic goods, new ideas, and cultural exchange. Traders traveled along the Nile and across deserts, moving at a measured pace, carrying goods and stories alike, enriching the civilization without haste or disruption. Religion continued to shape daily life, offering comfort and guidance. Temples, rituals, and offerings reflected a society in tune with the spiritual world, emphasizing stability, protection, and the eternal cycle of life. The gods were ever present, and their blessings were sought not in frantic devotion, but in patient, thoughtful worship. Daily life for ordinary Egyptians was harmonious. Farmers worked with the flow of the seasons, artisans refined their crafts, and families gathered to share meals and stories. Life was guided by the steady hand of tradition and the gentle rhythm of the natural world, a quiet, enduring heartbeat that echoed across the land. The Middle Kingdom reminds us of the power of renewal, patience, and thoughtful creativity. Societies may face challenges and periods of disorder, but through careful planning, cultural richness, and a commitment to harmony, they can emerge stronger, wiser, and more resilient. As we leave this period behind, let us carry forward the sense of quiet strength and careful balance, ready to journey into the new kingdom, where Egypt's story will reach new heights, filled with ambition, grandeur, and the mesmerizing flow of history unfolding slowly, like the timeless river itself. Capitolo 7. The New Kingdom and Egypt's Golden Age. As the Middle Kingdom gently recedes into memory, Egypt enters its most famous era, the New Kingdom, beginning around 1550 BCE. This period is often celebrated as Egypt's Golden Age, a time of grand ambition, expansive power and remarkable cultural achievements. But even amidst monumental constructions and military campaigns, life continued at the steady, unhurried pace that had always defined this ancient land. The new kingdom saw the rise of some of Egypt's most renowned pharaohs. Leaders such as Hatshepsut, Thutmose III, and Ramses II guided their civilization with a mixture of strength, wisdom, and vision. Imagine the quiet majesty of royal courts, where advisors speak softly, decisions are made with care, and every action carries the weight of both divine guidance and human responsibility. Power was vast, but it was exercised thoughtfully, in tune with the traditions of a land that had endured for millennia. Architecture and monumental art reached breathtaking heights. Massive temples, statues, and tombs were constructed, not merely to impress, but to honor gods, commemorate rulers, and preserve memory for eternity. The temples of Karnak and Luxor, the tombs in the Valley of the Kings, all rise in our imagination as quiet testaments to human ingenuity, patience, and devotion. Picture the slow, deliberate work of artisans chiseling stone, the careful painting of walls with vibrant pigments, each stroke infused with meaning and purpose. Trade and diplomacy flourished during the New Kingdom. Egypt extended its influence across Nubia, the Levant, and even parts of the Mediterranean, bringing back exotic goods, ideas, and technologies. Caravans and ships traveled with steady rhythm, moving not with haste, but with the thoughtful precision of a civilization confident in its strength and stability. Religion and ritual continued to shape life, offering comfort and guidance to both rulers and common people. Pharaohs were seen as divine intermediaries, ensuring harmony between gods and humans. The temples were alive with quiet ceremonies, prayers whispered in soft tones, and offerings placed with reverent care. Even amid political power and military campaigns, the spiritual heartbeat of Egypt remained calm and enduring. Life for everyday Egyptians retained a gentle, steady flow. Farmers tended their fields in harmony with the flood cycles of the Nile. Artisans crafted objects of beauty, from jewelry to pottery, each piece created with care and attention. Families shared meals and stories, weaving the fabric of daily life with patience and continuity. The rhythms of work, rest, and celebration maintained a soothing constancy across the land. The New Kingdom's golden age reminds us that greatness does not require haste. Ambition, creativity, and power can coexist with patience, mindfulness, and respect for tradition. In every stone laid, every story told, and every life lived, there is a sense of measured grandeur, a calm strength that flows like the eternal Nile. As our journey through this magnificent era comes to a close, take a moment to breathe slowly, feeling the enduring calm of Egypt's golden age. The rivers continue to flow, the temples stand in quiet dignity, and the story of this civilization moves steadily forward, like the soft currents of a timeless river guiding us toward the next chapter of history. Capitolo 8, Decline, Late Period, and Foreign Rule. As the New Kingdom's golden age gradually fades, Egypt enters a quieter, more contemplative era known as the Late Period. From around 1070 BC onward, the grandeur of earlier times begins to wane, yet life continues along the familiar, unhurried rhythms of the Nile. Even in moments of political uncertainty, the land maintains its timeless beauty, and the people persevere with calm resilience. During this period, Egypt experienced internal strife, divided rule, and the rise of smaller regional powers. Dynasties shifted, each leaving their mark, yet none could fully capture the expansive influence of the New Kingdom. Despite these changes, everyday life remained remarkably stable. Farmers still tended their fields, guided by the predictable floods. Families continued their traditions, and artisans carefully maintained the skills passed down through generations. Foreign powers began to influence Egypt more directly. Assyrians, Persians, and eventually Greeks and Romans would exert control over the land. These rulers brought new customs and governance, yet Egypt's core identity remained. Imagine cities where traditional Egyptian architecture mingled subtly with foreign styles, where temples still honored ancient gods, and life moved at the steady pace of centuries-old customs. Religion provided continuity and comfort. Priests maintained the rituals that had long shaped Egyptian life. Offerings were placed at shrines, prayers whispered in soft tones, and festivals continued to mark the passage of seasons. Even as rulers changed, the spiritual heartbeat of the nation persisted, offering a sense of stability and enduring connection to the land. Despite political challenges, culture and knowledge thrived. Art, literature, and craftsmanship continued to evolve, blending traditional Egyptian techniques with new influences from abroad. Hieroglyphs remained a sacred form of communication, and monumental inscriptions continue to record events, both grand and subtle, with care and precision. The late period reminds us that civilizations are resilient. Even amid decline and external pressures, life flows steadily like the Nile, carrying forward the wisdom, traditions, and beauty that define a people. The pyramids, temples, and tombs stand as silent witnesses to centuries of human endeavor, a calm testament to enduring human creativity. As we near the close of our journey through ancient Egypt, imagine the land at dusk. The sun sets softly over the desert horizon, casting a warm glow over the river. Shadows lengthen gently across the temples and tombs, and the cool evening breeze whispers through the papyrus reeds. Life continues quietly and peacefully as it has for thousands of years. Take a deep breath now, feeling the calm of centuries envelop you. The story of Egypt is one of resilience, continuity, and enduring beauty. Its people, gods, and landscapes remind us that time, like the Nile, flows steadily onward, shaping life with gentle persistence. In the final chapter, we will reflect on the legacy of ancient Egypt, the echoes of its civilization, its wisdom, and its timeless influence on the world. For now, allow the serene rhythm of the river and the quiet dignity of the desert to settle softly in your mind. Capitolo 9, Legacy of Ancient Egypt and Closing Thoughts. As we reach the final moments of our journey, let us pause and reflect on the enduring legacy of ancient Egypt. The civilization we have explored tonight, with its flowing Nile, majestic temples, and timeless deserts, continues to inspire awe even thousands of years after its greatest rulers walked the land. The monuments of Egypt, pyramids, temples, and statues, are more than stone and mortar. They are echoes of human curiosity, devotion, and creativity. Each hieroglyph, each carved relief, carries stories of lives lived with care and purpose. Even in silence, these relics speak of a people who sought balance, harmony, and meaning in every aspect of their existence. Egyptian culture shaped not only its own land but also the wider world. Ideas of architecture, mathematics, astronomy, and art traveled across continents, influencing civilizations far beyond the desert. Philosophers, scholars, and travelers marveled at the wisdom encoded in these monuments, and even today we continue to learn from them. But perhaps the most profound legacy of ancient Egypt is not found in stone or scrolls. It is in the enduring rhythm of life, the slow, deliberate pace that allowed a civilization to flourish along the river for millennia. There is a lesson in this gentle continuity, that even amid change, hardship, and the passage of centuries, life can persist with grace and quiet strength. As you imagine the Nile flowing peacefully under the soft glow of moonlight, picture the countless generations who lived, loved, and worked along its banks. Farmers tended their fields with care, priests performed their sacred rituals, artisans shaped beauty from clay and stone, and children played in the warm sun. Every life, however ordinary, contributed to the steady heartbeat of this extraordinary civilization. Tonight, let us breathe deeply, letting the calm of the desert and the river settle around us. Feel the quiet wisdom of ancient Egypt embracing you, a gentle reminder of the enduring power of history and human creativity. Each stone, each story, each breath of wind over the sand speaks softly, inviting reflection, rest, and a sense of connection across the ages.
The day begins in a hush, before the sun rises fully, when the world seems suspended between dream and reality. Pale pink and gold light spills across the horizon, touching the slow-moving waters of the Nile. The river mirrors the colors of the sky, shifting gradually, a soft, liquid canvas. A gentle breeze carries the scent of damp earth, lotus flowers, and the faint, dry whisper of the desert sand drifting from distant dunes. Insects hum softly among reeds, barely audible, while a fish occasionally leaps, creating ripples that catch the sun like tiny sparks of light. In a small mud brick house, the first movements stir. A mother stretches her arms, feeling the warmth of the sun through the thin walls. The father steps outside barefoot, feeling the slightly cool sand, inhaling the fresh, river-scented air. Children blink sleep from their eyes, their hair tousled, as a small bird flits onto the roof, singing a delicate morning song. The village begins to wake. Goats and sheep bleat softly. Chickens scratch for grains. Donkeys bray, and in the distance, camels lift their long legs, adjusting to the new day. Farmers move to the fields along the Nile. They carry wooden buckets, long poles, and small tools. Water is guided gently from the irrigation canals, flowing in arcs over carefully prepared soil. The smell of wet earth rises in harmony with the faint perfume of growing crops, barley, wheat, vegetables, and flax. Each movement is deliberate, practiced over generations. The rhythmic splash of water, the soft scrape of a hoe, and the low murmur of conversation create a calm, hypnotic symphony. Along the riverbank, fishermen push boats into the water. Nets are cast in graceful arcs, water dripping from taut mesh. Fish jump, silver scales flickering in the sunlight. Herons and ibises stand elegantly on the banks, observing, waiting. Children run barefoot, laughing, chasing frogs or tossing pebbles. The hum of human activity blends with the soft lapping of the river and distant bird calls. In the workshops, artisans begin their day. Potters spin their wheels, shaping soft clay into jars and cups. Carvers chip wood and stone, creating statues of gods, animals, and humans, while metalworkers hammer bronze and copper into jewelry, axes, and ceremonial items. The air smells of damp clay, smoldering incense, and heated metal, blending in a rich, earthy perfume. Every soft tap of chisel, every scratch of stylus, every swirl of water on clay contributes to a gentle symphony of creation. Children gather near scribes. They copy hieroglyphs onto clay tablets, learning the sacred art of writing. Stylus scratches rhythmically, filling the air with soft, precise sounds. Nearby, elders tell stories of gods, kings, and ancestors. Their voices rise and fall like gentle waves, carrying the wisdom of generations. You can feel the weight of time, the connection between past and present, in every careful stroke, every whispered legend. The temples awaken with reverent calm. Priests in flowing linen robes move slowly, chanting prayers to Ra, Osiris, Isis, and Horus. Incense curls toward the vaulted ceilings, filling the vast stone halls with sweet, smoky aroma. Lamps flicker softly, casting long shadows over hieroglyphs carved deep into walls. Ceremonial tools clink gently, echoing like distant bells, while priests bow and move with deliberate grace. The rhythm of devotion pulses quietly, matching the rhythm of the river outside. Midday brings a gentle heat. The sun illuminates the desert and the Nile in golden brilliance. Sand shimmers in waves, dunes rise in smooth contours, and occasional camels trace slow paths toward distant oases. Palm trees sway softly. The desert seems vast yet intimate, carrying whispered stories of ancient travelers and kings. The temples awaken with reverent calm. Priests in flowing linen robes move slowly through the cool, shadowed corridors, their footsteps soft against the ancient stone. The air is heavy with the scent of freshly lit incense, a rich mixture of frankincense, myrrh, and aromatic resins brought from distant lands. These fragrances curl upward in delicate streams, rising like invisible prayers toward the towering ceilings. Columns painted in deep reds, blues, and gold stand like silent sentinels, each carved with stories of gods, kings, and the eternal balance of the world. A low, melodic chanting begins, a sound that seems to vibrate gently through the stone itself. The priests' voices blend in slow, measured harmony, their intonation following sacred patterns unchanged for centuries. The sound is almost like the heartbeat of the temple, steady, enduring, solemn. Ceremonial tools rest upon polished altars, bronze censers, bowls of pure water from the Nile, and trays of freshly picked lotus blossoms whose pale petals tremble in the faint morning breeze drifting in from open courtyards. Sunlight filters through narrow openings high in the walls, illuminating motes of dust that drift lazily in the air. Each golden beam catches the edge of a statue's face, the curve of a hieroglyph, the shimmer of a gold inlay. The statues of Ra, Osiris, and Isis seem almost alive in this light, their eyes inlaid with precious stones that glint faintly, as though watching the ritual with quiet approval. In the inner sanctum, the most sacred chamber of the temple, the air feels warmer, heavier. Here, only the highest-ranking priests may enter, carrying offerings of bread, beer, honey, and incense. Each step they take is deliberate, each movement part of a ritual learned over a lifetime. Water from the Nile is sprinkled gently over the altar, the droplets catching the light like tiny stars. The rhythmic clinking of ceremonial vessels echoes softly. Midday brings a gentle, enveloping heat, the kind that settles slowly over the land, wrapping it in a golden haze. The sun now hangs high, its light pouring down in a steady stream that turns the desert into a sea of shimmering light. Waves of heat dance above the sand, bending the horizon in subtle, wavering motions. The Nile glistens like a ribbon of liquid gold, its surface dotted with small ripples that catch and scatter the sunlight into 1,000 tiny stars. The desert stretches endlessly in all directions, its rolling dunes carved into graceful shapes by centuries of wind. Each curve of sand seems to hold a story, of travelers, caravans, and wandering herders whose paths vanished but whose presence lingers in the whispers of the breeze. In the distance, camels move at their own unhurried pace, their long legs lifting and sinking into the soft sand. Occasionally, the jingle of a harness or the low, deep groan of a camel's call drifts faintly through the dry air. Palm trees gather in small clusters near hidden oases, their fronds swaying slowly as if in quiet conversation. The green of their leaves stands out sharply against the ochre and gold of the desert, a reminder of life persisting in the harshest of places. Birds perch among the branches, their calls short and sharp in the stillness, before taking flight toward the water. The village basks in this noonday glow. The walls of the mud brick houses seem to soften under the sun's touch, their colors deepening to a warm terracotta. The scent of freshly baked bread drifts from small ovens, mingling with the faint sweetness of dates drying in the open air. Women move in slow, graceful motions, conserving energy in the heat, carrying baskets or kneeling beside hearths. Some men rest in the shade of awnings or palm leaves, their conversations quiet, punctuated by the occasional laugh. Others lead donkeys laden with bundles toward the marketplace, their sandals leaving shallow impressions in the warm sand. The village at midday is not silent, but its sounds are softened, muted by the sun, wrapped in the warm embrace of the desert's rhythm. Here, time itself seems to slow. The world breathes in long, measured moments, each second stretching and blending into the next. The pulse of life continues, unbroken and unhurried, beneath the vast, watchful sky. In the village marketplace, the slow and measured dance of commerce unfolds beneath the shade of woven canopies and swaying palm fronds. Stalls line the narrow pathways, their wooden frames draped in colorful fabrics that ripple gently in the breeze. Merchants arrange their goods with practiced hands, carefully stacking woven baskets, setting out bundles of fragrant herbs, and displaying earthenware pots whose smooth surfaces catch the sunlight. The air is thick with scents, cinnamon and coriander mingle with the earthy aroma of freshly caught fish, the sweetness of ripe dates, and the faint smokiness of roasting meat. A warm hum of voices fills the air, each conversation a soft negotiation, a quiet back and forth between seller and buyer. The tone is never rushed, for here, time moves at the rhythm of the Nile, slow and unyielding. Children weave between the stalls, their bare feet kicking up fine grains of warm sand. Their laughter floats above the marketplace, a light, playful counterpoint to the deeper, slower tones of adult conversation. Some carry small pieces of bread in their hands, nibbling between games, while others chase each other in winding paths through the crowd. Musicians stand in a shaded corner, their lyres strummed with patient fingers, sending delicate, ringing notes into the air. Drums sound in a slow, steady beat, the rhythm matching the unhurried pace of the day. Dancers move with graceful sways, their arms tracing fluid arcs that seem to echo the curves of the river. Everywhere, there is a sense of abundance, not in great wealth, but in the richness of life's small details. The gleam of a copper bracelet in the sunlight, the rustle of palm leaves above, the call of a heron flying low over the market. These moments weave together into a tapestry of sound, scent, and color that defines the village's heartbeat. Here, the marketplace is more than a place of trade, it is a place where stories are exchanged as often as goods. Where each interaction reinforces the bonds between neighbors, and where the simple act of living is carried out with quiet beauty. Women gather at the Nile's edge in the soft glow of the afternoon light, their figures bending and straightening in an unhurried rhythm. Their hands work with practiced grace, dipping long pieces of fabric into the flowing water, twisting and pressing the cloth before rinsing it again. The sound is a gentle, repetitive splash, a heartbeat that keeps time with the river's steady flow. The sun warms their backs and shoulders, glinting off wet fabric and catching droplets in midair. Some women hum or sing low melodies, ancient songs passed from mother to daughter, songs that float over the water like drifting petals. Their voices mingle with the soft rustle of reeds, the distant call of water birds, and the quiet plop of a fish breaking the surface. Nearby, children play at the edge of the river. They wade into the shallows, chasing frogs that leap away in sudden bursts. Pebbles are tossed, rippling the surface in widening circles that dissolve into the current. Laughter rises in bursts, echoing against the riverbank. A boy holds up a smooth stone as if it were treasure, a girl cups a tiny fish in her hands before letting it slip away. Fishermen return slowly from the day's work, their small boats gliding toward the shore. Nets sag heavy with the catch, silver-scaled fish flashing briefly in the sun before disappearing into woven baskets. The scent of the fresh catch mixes with the smell of wet reeds, the warm aroma of baking bread drifting from nearby homes, and the faint smokiness of roasting meat. This is a moment of transition, a quiet meeting point between the labor of the day and the ease of the evening. The women's hands keep moving, the children keep laughing, and the river keeps flowing, eternal and unchanging. The scene feels both fleeting and timeless, as if it could belong to this day or 1,000 years before. The afternoon stretches out with the heavy stillness of a golden cloth laid across the land. The sun hangs lower now, casting longer shadows from palm trees and mud brick walls, turning their outlines into elongated shapes that ripple over sand and stone. The air carries the mingled scents of lotus blossoms drifting from the river, sweet incense curling from temple altars, and the earthy aroma of wet clay drying in the heat. Farmers return from the fields in small groups, leading donkeys and oxen along narrow paths worn smooth by generations of footsteps. The animals move slowly, their heads bobbing with the rhythm of the walk, their hooves making soft thuds against the sand. The farmers' voices are low, their conversations easy and unhurried. Wooden tools rest against their shoulders, the sheen of work still on their skin. In the workshops, craftsmen bring their day's labor toward completion. A carver leans over a half-finished statue, his chisel tapping in a steady pattern, each strike sending a faint echo into the still air. Nearby, a potter smooths the final curve of a jar, his hands wet with clay, his eyes focused on the perfection of the form. Metalworkers lay down their tools, letting the embers in the forge glow softly as the heat fades. Above it all, the sky is vast and pale blue, slowly deepening at the edges into shades of amber and rose. Birds ride the warm air currents high above, hawks circling in slow, majestic spirals, falcons gliding silently toward the horizon. Even the desert wind seems to slow, brushing over dunes with a soft hiss, as if reluctant to disturb the peace. This is the hour when the land breathes in quiet unity, when each person, animal, and element of nature moves in harmony without hurry. It is a living portrait of balance, framed by the golden light of an Egyptian afternoon that will soon give way to the cool embrace of evening. As the sun begins its slow descent, the temples take on a deeper glow, their carved reliefs catching the last light in golden edges. Priests move through the colonnades with measured steps, their white linen robes swaying gently, the faint jingling of amulets accompanying each movement. The scent of burning frankincense curls upward in thin, spiraling ribbons, carrying prayers into the open sky. Inside the sacred halls, shadows lengthen over hieroglyph-covered walls. The figures of gods, majestic and serene, seem almost to breathe in the shifting light. Statues wear crowns of gold and lapis, their eyes inlaid with shining stone that catches the flicker of oil lamps. In the stillness, the low murmur of a chant rises, deep and resonant, like the heartbeat of the temple itself. Outside, townspeople pass by the temple gates. Some stop to bow their heads in brief reverence, others linger to watch the priests carry offerings, baskets of figs and dates, jars of beer, loaves of bread still warm from the oven. A child tugs at his mother's hand, whispering questions about the gods carved high above, their faces watching over the land. Farther down the road, the marketplace is settling into its final bustle before nightfall. Merchants call out softer now, offering the last of their goods before packing them away. The colors of painted pottery, woven cloth, and strings of beads glow warmly under the dimming sky. The rhythm of barter slows, coins clink less often. Over it all, the sky shifts steadily toward deeper hues, streaked with pale orange and fading gold. The first evening star appears above the horizon, and for a brief moment, it seems that every movement in the town slows to acknowledge it. In the outskirts, beyond the reach of the town's voices, the open desert begins to cool. Sand that shimmered in the heat of the day now darkens, the wind carrying a faint chill that promises the quiet of night. Dunes cast long, curved shadows, their ridges softened by the fading light. Caravans returning from distant journeys approach slowly, their camels swaying under loads of woven baskets, ivory, incense, and precious stones. The travelers' faces are tired yet peaceful, their eyes reflecting relief at the sight of familiar palm groves in the distance. Bells on the camels' necks chime softly, mingling with the low hum of voices sharing stories of faraway lands. In small farmsteads along the edge of the fields, families gather outside their homes. Clay ovens glow with orange light as bread bakes for the evening meal. Children sit in circles listening to elders tell tales, stories of the gods who shaped the world, of heroic kings and hidden treasures buried deep in the sands. Each tale flows slowly, punctuated by laughter or the soft gasp of wonder. The Nile mirrors the sky now, its surface turning from bronze to a deep, calm blue. The sound of the current is gentler here, broken only by the dip of an oar or the faint splash of a fish. Along its banks, lotus flowers close their petals for the night, their fragrance lingering in the cool air. As the stars begin to scatter across the heavens, the desert's vastness seems to expand, its silence growing deeper and more profound. It is as if the entire land holds its breath, waiting for the full arrival of night. Night descends with a softness that feels almost like a blessing. The last traces of sunlight fade beyond the horizon, leaving the land bathed in silver moonlight. The pyramids rise in the distance, their sharp edges softened by shadow, their massive forms standing silent as eternal guardians. Stars shimmer above them in uncountable numbers, each one a pinprick of ancient fire in the dark. In the villages, torches flicker outside doorways, their light casting warm halos on mud brick walls. Inside, families share their evening meals, simple yet rich with the flavors of fresh grain, vegetables, fish, and honey. The air hums with gentle conversation, the clink of pottery cups, the rustle of linen clothing. Somewhere, a musician begins to play a reed flute, the notes long and low, floating into the still air. The melody drifts between houses, across the quiet riverbank, and into the open fields. In another corner of the village, a group of young people dance slowly to the rhythm of a drum, their feet stirring the dust in lazy spirals. Beyond the light of the village, the desert spreads wide and unbroken, its silence wrapping around everything like a vast cloak. Jackals call in the distance, their voices rising and falling against the hum of the wind. The moon's glow paints the sand in shades of white and gray, making the land look like a dream caught between shadow and light. In this deep stillness, time seems to dissolve. The ancient Egyptian world, with all its beauty and strength, feels untouched by the ages. Here, under the gaze of the eternal stars, the heartbeat of the Nile and the whisper of the desert speak the same language they have spoken for thousands of years, a language of patience, of endurance, and of quiet grace.